This podcast is produced by Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency. The Collective Us, an NMCAA podcast, focuses on inspiring you through stories of those we've helped through our programming or by linking local resources to community members in need. Join us as we learn about the programs offered through NMCAA and how we touch people's lives every day.
Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of The Collective Us, an NMCAA podcast. Well, I think it is anyway. At this point, you may be sensing something different already. And yes, my name is Ryan Buck, but we seem to be missing the dulcet sounds of Erica Austin, our host. Well, please have no fear, because our topic today is marketing communications and community engagement and their critical and ever-adapting roles at NMCAA with our guests, Erica Austin, marketing manager and host of The Collective Us and an NMCAA podcast. Erica, welcome to your show.
Thank you so much. It's great being here, Ryan.
We'll get it out of the way. You feel a little awkward being a guest.
Yeah, it's kind of weird being on this side of the microphone.
You know, I've had a lot of good guidance, right? Yeah. And I'm not going to stray. So you should have nothing to fear, because our guests have nothing to fear of you.
All right, perfect.
Typically. So I'm just trying to emulate you.
Let's do it.
And you have some backup in case I get real surly here. And we also have Melissa Findley-Thompson, engagement manager at NMCAA.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great.
Again, we talked a little bit before we rolled. We know a little bit about Erica's experience in broadcasting and things like this. And you also bring some tenure in that field. So there's a lot of confidence in the room.
I feel it.
That's good. Yeah, I wasn't including myself. I was just trying to compliment you in an interesting way as a new guest.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for being here as we talk about marketing, communications, and community engagement. And those are interesting and fun topical buzzwords. So hopefully we can demystify some things. But I want to start with Erica. Easy question to you that'll hopefully help serve as a nice warm-up to Melissa's role. What is the role of marketing within an organization like NMCAA? Broad, right?
Yeah,
just a real open softball.
Very, very broad. You know, as the marketing manager, my hope is to eventually, being that I'm the first marketing manager at NMCAA, is to eventually have a brand that is recognized in the community. We have people who rely upon myself and Melissa for coming up with cohesive message, and also just being the voice for all the programs within our, organization. So getting to know, and that's why this podcast has been so great from the very beginning. I've learned so much sitting here on your side of the table today, and getting to know all the people that I work with and the other programs and community organizations that we work with. It's nice to have those in our back pocket and being able to speak it out to the world, like, hey, this is us and this is what we do.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to onboard.
Yeah,
in an organization. You're an innovator. That leads me to a question about traditional marketing, because I was going to ask you, is this more of a traditional marketing role, or are there nuances due to a nonprofit? But is that a moot question because there wasn't any tradition?
Well, this is my first experience as a nonprofit marketing manager. I come from the traditional marketing world where you're trying to sell a product, right? So you're trying to sell a chair, or you're trying to get somebody to purchase tickets to something. Where we are a nonprofit, we're trying to bring awareness to our services and letting people know that we're here when they need us. It's not so much we're trying to sell products. It's just letting them know, like, hey, we're here.
So some things are consistent in the world of marketing.
Yeah.
And you've used some words that really resonate. But marketing can be typically seen as this manipulative, dark art meant only to persuade and change behaviors to line pockets of people who, quite frankly, don't probably need their pockets lined. They probably have some pretty nicely lined pockets already. So having said all you said, and learning more about both of you, is storytelling comes up a lot. And that, again, seems to be a term that people can gravitate towards. And I think the show is a good example, as you said. You have guests telling personal stories of their personal connection to NMCAA prior or during. They get passion on the job, 20 plus years. You have a lot of tenure. Yes. So Melissa, what was the attraction to this role specifically? And what was it about NMCAA, given your background, that went, this is for me?
Well, I've been working in nonprofit a little bit longer, and I had a background in marketing, newspapers, media, etc. However, I started out at universities, capital campaigns. I just really got hooked. And I really think that my more recent background with the Alzheimer's Association, being aware of Meals on Wheels and sort of that vulnerable population that exists in abundance in northern Michigan, right? It's just growing. The silver tsunami's here. We have this massive population. And we saw during the pandemic how vulnerable and that thin veneer that got pulled back, where the community resources and services available were just paramount during that time. And I know people who have worked for NMCAA even before I came along, right? So that's what was crazy, and so appreciate what they do. I made a comment during one of our brainstorming sessions that was like from womb to tomb, basically, because of our early Head Start programs. I mean, prenatal care, all the
prenatal
way to
care,
the
yep.
senior, Meals on Wheels programs.
Right.
And in between, we help take care of other vulnerable populations like our homeless folks and also those who need weatherization, HEAS, housing. So we're there for the full compendium. Financial management services.
Yep.
Right.
And I'm always talking about, particularly in my background, mostly with education or higher ed, access.
Mm-hmm.
Access is what it's all about, providing access and making people aware of those resources that are available. And that's where the money comes in,
Right.
Whether we're federally funded or state funded programming, we still have to raise a significant amount of money to keep those programs healthy. And with programs getting cut all the time, I mean, it's your tax dollars at work, my friends.
Sure.
You need to know what's going on in your community.
Melissa, you touched on it a little bit. You have a wonderful and interesting background. Regional Director for Alzheimer's Association. And I think that's really interesting because it gave you that connection to the guests you may be serving. And you've seen places other than Traverse City.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that brings some good perspective. And I know you're new in your role, but what makes you, just in the short term, very confident about NMCAA's place in the community in 2023 and looking forward to 2024?
Oh, I am so thrilled to be here for the upcoming 50th anniversary of NMCAA, which will take place in 2024. We have some grand plans that we're working on, but we want to make sure the community is aware, that awareness, that storytelling, in addition to being engaged. My title is engagement manager, and I like it better than like development director or fundraising guru or, because it's engaging people through action. We came up with a fun tagline. I don't know if we're going to use it or not for anything, but you are the action. Like Uncle Sam pointing at you, are the action in Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency.
Right.
And people are part of our power. We have so many volunteers we rely on for the Meals on Wheels delivery services and our boards and the folks that serve street outreach for the homeless prevention program, veterans programs. I'm, again, just learning, but there's a lot more we can do in terms of our awareness. And that's where Erica's already off and running.
Yeah.
I mean, she's only been here a hot minute too.
Right.
So
you're seeing strength and you're seeing potential.
Absolutely.
Which, is that motivating to you
yeah.
in particular?
It's exciting.
Do you crave a high energy environment or do you create a high energy environment?
Oh, people would say I create a high energy environment. They're like, simmer down. But I mean, boundless enthusiasm. I mean, I would be a Tigger in this world. People are like, okay, how does she keep that going, even after hours? But it's all about working together. I mean, I'm a product of the island of misfit toys. I don't know why anyone would ever want to leave the island, but we have to go out in the world, and you're kind of like that horse of a different color. Some people are like, why have you worked in a nonprofit for so long? You've had such other interesting experiences. And I'm like, because it's the most rewarding.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, when you were asking, marketing for a nonprofit, to me, it feels more rewarding than selling a chair. I feel like I'm working towards something better, helping people. And even though it's marketing and it might be, what did you say? Dark
arts.
Dark art or something.
Well, I'm saying it's been called that by others.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're marketing for a nonprofit, yes, we are quote unquote asking for your money and things like that and your time, but it's all towards a better community and the greater good of our region.
Right.
So it's really rewarding.
And I'd add to that and just say, bringing the awareness, because you never know when you're going to have a tragedy. You don't know. It could be an illness. It could be your house burning down. It could be, your kid just went off the rails and you've got to refocus, or, so many things happen. You might be part of this sandwich generation where you're taking care of your aging parents and you're trying to raise young children, and you are so freaking stressed out. You can't find childcare, and we can help.
Right.
So that's the marketing piece that I think once you bring the awareness to the greater public and you promote what we do to those prospective clients, okay, you could be one of those people one day. I am not a fear-based fundraiser. I do not believe in like the I'm sorry, I'm going to rip on something. But you know those ads where there's like that sad, lovely music by Sarah McLachlan.
Right.
And there's these poor suffering animals. I was going to say the organization, I won't. That's just, ugh. Recently, they just changed their ad campaign. I saw some amazing new campaigns by them. And I am so encouraged because now they're showing the perspective of the animal that's adopted going to its new home and how happy and the joy.
It's a little less.
I'm getting chills just talking about it. I just saw it this weekend when we were in Chicago. When we were in Chicago,
now,
right?
have they moved away from Sarah and are they more on to a Green Day tip maybe?
I
That's
don't
a little
even
more
remember
upbeat.
the music. I just remember the upbeat, like happy, like this is the reward. Let's focus on the positive.
Right.
And that's what we need to do. As opposed to showing like, you know, the homeless community, you know, the tent city over by the Commons or whatever. We need to show the result of that.
Absolutely.
What we do.
And people like to see...
Impact.
Yeah, impact. They want to see results or they want to know that they're a part of something greater, which is definitely a noble cause. And it comes from noble areas because, Erica, you've been very open and candid about your passion and dedication to NMCAA in no small part because, well, do you want to just remind people where you started with NMCAA?
Yeah, I mean, I have a long history with NMCAA, and I didn't realize it when I applied for the job or accepted the job. But about a week in, I was sitting down with Carrie Bachman, our executive director, and I was kind of like, yeah, I was in Head Start. And wait a minute, which Head Start were you in? And it was this one. And who was your teacher? Oh, yeah, she was our employee. You were a Head Start graduate of NMCAA. And so, yeah, it was really kind of a cool, finding like, hey,
So when
was
you're
here.
thinking, you're doing a new thing, does that give you some kind of additional confidence? Like, I can really do that because, one, there's that longevity. Two, I can point to that teacher.
Yeah.
And say, does that help somebody who may be taking a chance in a career? And that's maybe something to look for?
Yeah. I mean, I think NMCAA, it can help anybody. It's not just, people who are in poverty. It's, I say all the time, like, we are helping people help themselves. So, getting a head start is literally like Head Start's like motto, like we're helping you get a head start.
Yeah.
It's relatable. Everyone can use our programming. You know, you never know, like Melissa said, you never know when you're going to need a program or someone might need one of our programs. And so that's definitely something that's relatable.
So given the breadth of what NMCAA does, and we're learning about it on the show, I am, how internally motivated or inspired, you specifically, Erica, I'll start with you, in your opinion, do you have to be successful in a role like yours? And how influential can marketing be in motivating internally?
Motivation for me, like I said, kind of comes from the fact that we're providing good resources for people. It's going towards the greater good of the community. And so that kind of drives me. Like I said, I love the passion. I have the passion for helping people. And it's, even though I get to do my love of marketing, which is something that I feel like I'm strong at, I've obviously, being the marketing manager, it's a strength of mine, but it's a passion. And I think it's really interesting and cool to be able to, the strategy behind it and things like that. And then internally, as far as like our staff goes, they're all very excited. And I know Melissa has felt this already, just being a few weeks in. They're excited that we're here. They're excited about getting the word out. They want to do all the things that we want to do. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get them all to where we want them to be,
right?
To get them all on the same page, I guess.
Aligning our mission with our operations and making sure that we're all speaking with the same voice.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is partly both of our roles, because I can't go out and sell, fundraising to people and say, why? What's the why? What is your why to be part of Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency?
Right.
How do you want us to make that impact in your community? And getting those distilled messages with all the different divisions, getting the stars aligned, it's like we've just got to get everybody, our ducks in a row, if you will. And we have time to do it. I mean, I think it's just always a work in progress. It will evolve.
Yeah. And that's what's fascinating about, again, the diversity within the services of NMCAA. want to touch on work culture, because, there are different departments and very different services. Is marketing, and either of you could take this or together, helpful in that kind of aligning the internal message with so many different kind of brands out there?
I think so. We're definitely working towards that, having, one strong message and relating, like, so people know Meals on Wheels. We want people to, when they see Meals on Wheels, to know it's NMCAA.
There we go. We've talked about that a few times. That's the hit.
Yeah.
That's the popular T-shirt that gets people
So
going.
Meals on Wheels, Head Start, the legacy programs that we've talked about multiple times on this show. When you see those logos or those names come across, that that's part of NMCAA. And hey, they also have other programs that can help you too. I think that's really...
Some people think of community-based support services as like a safety net, but I prefer to think of it as a network, because we really are networking within our organization, because someone comes in to Head Start and then the next thing we know that they're having maybe issues paying their rent. And then we're able to give them some of that financial management services education on how to avoid a foreclosure or, pay your rent or do your taxes. And after that, it could also be eventually, buy your own home through one of our partners, like Habitat for Humanity.
Right.
A little plug out there for our good friends. But I mean, it's a network.
Yeah.
And it's all meant to create self-sustainability of
it's an
some
asset.
sort.
Exactly.
This is a very valuable,
possible.
Northwest Michigan Community Actions Agency is a very valuable asset to the community overall, because without, a variety of state-sponsored programs or federally sponsored programs, you're going to see people fall through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to close the chasm.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to make the walls a little less high for people to get themselves out of a difficult situation.
So it sounds like you're very passionate about something, and I'm just going to hone in on it. Are there misconceptions out there? Is there shame? Because, we've talked on
Stigma.
the show, we had a guest, and a very wonderful guest, who went without water for 12 years. So this is the time, Melissa, Erica.
Yeah.
I mean, are there things out there that are still barriers?
There's absolutely barriers. I think, the different programs obviously have different things. I don't think there's quite as much stigma behind, like, for example, Head Start. But with our homeless prevention program, obviously there's a stigma. We talked a lot about that when we had Ryan Hannon on the show with Sarah Hughes. There is stigma around a lot of our programming, but I think they're important programs that need to be in place, and they need to be shared to build a better community. So, yeah.
Right.
We just recently had this Comedy for Community event down in Cadillac, which I was fortunate to go attend. It's
and
great.
cheers to you for doing an event like that.
It was
And
cool.
Was it successful?
It was. It was
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
I mean, Sarah did an amazing job. Her and her team, Nicole, they were great. I got to meet a lot of the staff at that event. It was not an easy drive for me. It was an hour and a half one way from Charlevoix, but it was a beautiful, unlike this winter weather we're having, which will be stuck in for the next 6 months. Sorry, people. But it was great. And frankly, the fact that we have seen one of the flyers they had on the table that night, in addition, the table tends to thank all our wonderful sponsors and the silent auction, was a graphic of the state of Michigan and where the homeless populations are right now.
Right.
The homeless population in our area went up 56%. In other places, it went down. The next highest is like 36%, somewhere down around Flint or whatnot.
Right.
Other places, it went down. We grew 56% in homeless population. Why?
Well, not a positive growth number. That's not the
God,
the
no.
number
And
you're
so,
wanting
and
to
people are
add
like,
to.
oh, the scourge, right?
Right.
And we hear about it, migrants or immigrants, whatever it is, but they're here and we're here. We're all here together. Right. And we got to make the best of a difficult situation going forward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a great segue, Erica. Aside from all the fancy tools that you have and the things you have to do, podcasts and focus groups and committees and subcommittees and all of that, NMCAA is a people and community-based organization. So when looking at how you approach the community and how you approach the public, can you think of an early story of engagement with somebody in the public that stuck with you early on that made you think, like, this is for me?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, like the guy without water, I actually got to go out to his home and meet with him before he came on the podcast to kind of talk about things in preparation. Like, that was really impactful. And, it was so nice to see him. Like, he had a smile on his face. Like, he was so, I mean, everybody's hopefully, if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. I don't remember which episode it is off the top top of my head. But
can I plug it too?
yeah.
Please listen to that episode.
Yes, please. It's a great one.
Yeah, amazing.
And I mean, he had a smile on his face when we walked in the door and was like, I'm happy to share my story. I want everybody to know how great NMCAA
A little
is.
behind, I don't know if we said, and we met him for the first time
Yeah.
that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Right?
you had met him for the first
I
time.
met
I
him,
met him
but-
for the second time, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's not like we'd been drinking buddies for a while
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
went to college together. And so maybe I'll rephrase the question. What is your approach with how you're interacting with the public? I mean, in marketing, maybe it doesn't come up a lot, but there's a responsibility there,
Mhm.
and in a small town, you feel like you always represent your team.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that?
I've had multiple times where I'll go out or I'll go to like take my kids to the doctor. Oh, I have you working at Northwest Michigan. What is it? And I'm like, hey, it's NMCAA. We do, Meals on Wheels and homeless prevention, and kind of rattle off all the different things, kind of give them the elevator speech, if you will, of who we are and what we do. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, you're over on 3 Mile, right? And it's like,
And then
yeah,
they're like, I
yeah.
had no idea you did
Yeah.
all those things.
Yeah, I
and
didn't
can
realize
I
you
get a
did all
Meals on
those
Wheels
things.
t-shirt?
Yeah. And so, there's different ways of approaching it to different people. In marketing, I've said, talking with Melissa, just as she's still fairly new, I'm fairly new, but there's two different types of people that we're talking to. It's the people that Melissa wants to talk to, which are the people that we're hoping will give us a donation or a recurring gift monthly, or maybe leave us a planned gift in their estate.
Legacy. Yeah.
Legacy.
Estate. Mhm.
And then we also have the people who we want as our clients, who we want to help. We want them to get over that stigma or that pride of asking for help.
Right.
And so those are the two groups, if you will, that I'm quote unquote marketing to.
Yeah.
And again, marketing for a nonprofit is so much different. It's, hey, we're here to help you, or would you help us help them? It's
So
really all
another
about
commonality in marketing, different audiences,
Yeah.
but still very good work and very good messaging behind them. But you
Yeah.
still have to be, aware of who you're talking to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
You have to-
fascinating.
Yeah, that's where my passion is like, it's so exciting. Who are we talking to?
And
what's
again,
the strategy behind what we're
it's,
doing?
being the right resource for the right group of people and the right, network, which
network,
I
yeah.
think is an extraordinary.
Yeah.
And Melissa, your role seems so paramount to the success of NMCAA. Completely.
No pressure.
No pressure at all.
Well, I mean, we also rely on our community partners. I mentioned a
Mhm.
couple there in passing, but they are also an integral part of the equation to making this happen and
Yeah.
giving them their due and showcasing how we do it together. I'm not just going to be talking to individual wealthy donors, but also corporations and foundations
Yeah.
and how their role can be optimized through funding our programmings and our services and our resources. I want to get back real quick to the gentleman, without the water, because I kind of migrate between the Petoskey office up north above the 45th and here in Traverse City, our other offices. And when I was in the office yesterday, there was this gentleman who came in looking for Megan
Mhm.
Day,
Yeah.
and he had brought his elderly mother with him who didn't speak much English, but it didn't matter. They were all very cheery. And he was thanking Megan. He's like, Mama, this is Megan. I told you about Megan. She helps us every time. How proud he was to share. It's true. And I greeted him at the door and I had to go run and get Megan. And I'm like, I'm just hearing that from, the conference room where I'm, temporarily
Yeah.
housed that day.
Wow.
I just sat there and just took that all in. And
Yeah.
the gratitude, I'm not a Pollyanna. I'm a very realistic person. I'm a very dark soul. The dark arts are very familiar to me. But I do know that that's the why.
Mm-hmm.
That's the why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And for us, it's like the gentleman with the water. I wanted to say, one day it's a blip in your credit. You can't pay the bill. And then, next thing you know, it
Mhm.
sneaks up on you. And 12 years later, you're still living with that
Yeah.
water.
Mm-hmm.
You get used to it by degree.
Yeah.
And that's not the way we should be treating our neighbors.
And the way that story really panned out, we got to on the show. I know we're talking about that episode a lot, but
Yeah.
It's a good one.
The different individuals, and if I may just say, the different individuals that came together to make that happen,
Yeah.
and then just seeing the result.
Yeah.
And speaking of, a lot of different people and a lot of different resources that you need, Melissa, you've been back since 2015. There are a lot of people doing good in the community. So what's the key to differentiating and creating a message that really resonates? Awareness is still a challenge. We've talked about that on the show. So, the more awareness that's there. Every interaction you have at your doctor,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
another marketing interaction.
Yeah.
So what's the key? What do you find so far in 6 weeks?
I've always been told that, again, I never turn off the messaging for whatever organization I've worked for, Girl Scouts, higher ed, Alzheimer's Association. I know they're all interrelated. And yet, when you buy a greeting card or, those little cocktail napkins, and you can lead a horse to water, but I prefer tequila. So, and that's it's this woman with this horse on a napkin, and it just cracks me up. Well, that's kind of it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And unfortunately, not everyone wants to give to X organization because they want something different done with their money. Honoring the donor's wishes, having them align with the mission, having them also understand, what the impact, the staff, and how it's going to, improve the outcomes for our clients. They need to be informed and educated about how we do what we do. And then you can always say, so is this the program yours? You've talked to me, you listen a lot. You talked to me about, you're worried about pre-K education. There's just childcare, pre-K education, childcare. I mean, we hear this all the time. We hear that our students, since the pandemic are suffering. Well, time passes and, once a kid falls behind, it's really hard to catch up. I'm also a Strive mentor at Petoskey High School for students that are struggling with, their high school education.
Right.
We're just trying to get them over the finish line and help them finish. You know what? A lot of those kids probably would have benefited from a Head Start program.
Right.
And we, there's this socioeconomic, disparity in Northern Michigan that a lot of people don't see. I call it the unseen, unsexy, underfunded.
True.
And my job is to bring those persons and companies, foundations, corporations into the fold and say, I see some alignment here. Maybe we can talk about linkage. Oh, and then you're going to feel so good about giving, you're going to give more.
Yeah.
You're going to want to give more.
And, you're talking about that. It sparked something in my brain about that's that storytelling aspect we were talking about. It's putting a human touch and showing them here's what you can do with this many dollars. And it's, you can serve this many meals with Meals on Wheels with this donation.
Yeah.
Or, whatever program it might be. But it's putting that human touch onto things. And that's one of the things with marketing that I'm hoping to move towards is showing the impact of what can we do with, your donations or dollars.
We were toying around when we were brainstorming and we were talking about billboards and and the equation, right?
Yeah.
So there's the sad person, there's an image, a graphic of a sad person with a foreclosure sign on their house.
Right.
And then there's NMCAA with, education programs about how to avoid foreclosure or, buy a home, put a down payment down or whatever. And then it equals happy person, new home with the keys. And it's we're here for you.
Yeah.
NMCAA, we're here for
So
you.
the idea,
It's a simple equation.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
you just
simple
have
equation.
to message that in a lot of different ways with a lot of different resources, and not always the most or the best resources. And that's what makes nonprofits fun and scrappy and resilient. So, Erica, so many different services and areas of joy at NMCAA.
Yeah.
Is it okay to have a favorite? Do you have a favorite? You don't have to say.
Do I have a favorite?
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I'm really...
I won't make you say that. Thank you for even going that far.
I'm really,
But how often do you have to flex your working style, even your personal style, to match, maybe an area that's a little newer to you or maybe a little less exciting than others? Do you have to flex your style a lot at work?
Yeah, I think, and even you being my co-host, I've mentioned things to you in the past about certain episodes. It's because of my comfort level. So I may be more comfortable with a certain topic over another topic. I'm more comfortable with certain programs because I know those programs.
Right.
Versus I might not know so much about whatever topic it is. Yeah, there is definitely some flexing going on. I have to kind of, shift gears and who am I talking about? Who am I talking to? And trying to, for sure.
How do you do that successfully? Do you have keys, tricks, anything?
We're going to clone her.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been working on that for years.
So that could just be grit and hard work, but what makes you, do you think, successful at that? You can't say Head Start from the beginning, but
It's Head Start from the beginning.
Okay.
No, I think definitely you've seen this before. You've told me off air before lots of times. I'm so organized and I come with not obviously not today's show, but I come, I prepare the show typically and give it to you the day before. And I say, hey, Ryan, here's what we're doing.
Right.
And so, I'm pretty organized and I try to keep things in their own little like boxes, if you will. But overall, we're all at NMCAA, and that's really the goal, is to try to keep everybody under the same umbrella. So yes, you have to shift gears, but and you're, like I said, you're talking to different people, but
Does that
yeah,
make it a fun day sometimes, or is
to
that
shift gears.
can be tedious?
I feel like I'm not.
So I'm guessing Tigger likes the fun
Chaos?
shifting of gears a lot. I didn't want to assume.
Even though I come off as very organized, I'm also very chaotic.
You come off as very organized.
Wait,
You
I
said
have
that
to.
sounded
I have
bad.
to interject here because first time I ever walked into her office and I saw her whiteboard, I was like
Talk
in
about the
love.
whiteboard. Yeah,
I
me
was in
too.
love. I took a photograph
Me
of it
too.
to share with a marketing friend of mine at a local community college in Petoskey.
It's staggering.
And she was like, "Wow," and I'm like, "I know.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to work with this person." And she has vision. Erica has vision because she knows in the long run, as we lead our horses to drink tequila, we're going to eventually bring them together and they're going to make some nice little staple points and we're going to get on that like Wells Fargo, bike and we're going to ride across the country. It's not easy because there's competing interests.
Yeah.
There always
Absolutely.
will be.
Yeah.
And there are competing priorities.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are very fortunate to have a really good leader, not only in Carrie Bachman, but also our board. And I love working
And
with
I
Kim.
also, I was going to say, you have to also
Kim,
mention
Director of
Kim
Operations.
Altman.
I mean,
She's
she's
our
amazing.
director. You
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah, Fire Up Chips, another,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
CMU alum who we went to school at the exact same time. I found that really crazy. And here we are at
Yeah.
the same time in our lives
Yeah.
working. She's been there 20 plus
30.
or 30 years. Yeah,
30,
I know.
30,
It's like
30
crazy.
or
That,
31 or
if
something
I
like that.
may, the longevity.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Every time we celebrate on this show that kind of the longevity of anniversaries, 20, 30 plus years, I already see a really amazing camaraderie between the two of you. And I think there's something about people and professionals just getting it done. But what else is it that NMCAA may be doing that promotes this? Because I don't know that I see this very often. So I think maybe there's something else, or is this just the most professional, you hire perfectly?
Yeah.
We hope. I mean,
well,
and
I don't
people
know
pass
about
through.
I don't know about that. I mean, I know we certainly try, and that's one of our every couple of years we do a strategic plan. I know that's one of the things we're actually, working on. My marketing team is working with our HR team on how do we find the right people to hire. That's, something that we're working on. But yeah, I mean, we do have this great people who have been here for so long, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the passion behind the job that they do.
Yeah.
So there's a funny little story that back in 2014, when I was still living in Chicago or Evanston, I actually interviewed with NMCAA. So it's a personal story, but it unfortunately I wasn't able to make it up for the interview. I got a flat tire and I couldn't. Yeah, in Gary, of course, best place to get a flat tire.
And I
Ryan.
would disagree. If anybody understands the sarcasm, it's the best slash worst.
And so it wasn't until later I discovered they did hire someone else eventually. And I was actually talking to Betsy Reese about this because she's our HR director. And she's like, I remember you. And I'm like, well, I'm finally here. It's timing is everything. It was serendipity, and I'm, just, you have to go through a few different things. I love some of the other experiences I've had. Certainly higher ed, seeing people achieve their goals. But it's a really cool culture. And I'm just really fortunate to be sitting across the table with you guys today to be able to talk about it.
Yeah. The culture at NMCA, everybody loves it. It feels like everybody loves being there. And I say that being in the couple of offices in Traverse City. I've not ever made it up to the Petoskey office. I've been down at the Cadillac office.
It's a big organization.
We have, this is a kind of funny story. The other day, speaking of the doctor, I had to take one of my kids to the doctor's office, the pediatrician, and I'm driving. And I live down towards Manton. And so I'm driving and I'm like, oh, there's one of our Head Start classrooms. There's another Head Start classroom. Oh, there's another one. And I drove past I don't know, St. Mary's Hannah, the one in Chum's
Wow.
Corner. I drove past the one, well, I actually in Manton because I
So these
dropped my
things
son
you've
off
seen
at.
on paper and
Yeah, I mean, I knew where they were, but it was just kind of funny that I
wow.
had hit probably 4 or 5 of them before
Right.
I ended up getting
Right.
to a pediatrician. I'm like, I drove past 5 of our
Right.
locations
It's our largest
Wow.
on the way.
program by far.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have, I don't know how many program or how many locations of our Head Start and GSRP
But
classrooms.
we'll find
Yeah.
out and get back to you with
Yeah.
that.
Oh, well, thank you.
No, but
I want to say it's like 30 plus,
you know,
but
it's so like I said, it's not a social services safety net.
Right.
It's not a web.
The
It's not
net- the
tangled web.
network
It's a
is a
network.
really
It's a
wonderful-
network, and we do work together with so many community partners. I've already said that before. I'm just going to reiterate it.
Yeah.
Without like food rescue, without the people that come and do the delivery of the Meals on Wheels program. I mean, it is so huge. It's so far reaching, and people know the brand for each individual program. We're just trying to show them the umbrella. When I was with the Alzheimer's Association, I would say dementia is the umbrella. And just like in a garden or under the umbrella, there's different varieties of flowers. You've got dahlias and roses and daisies in a garden. Well, in the Alzheimer's Association, you have Lewy body's dementia, like Robin Williams had. You have Alzheimer's. You have vascular dementia, like my father has.
Right.
But here we have this beautiful network that is so interconnected, and the community partners that work with us, we all make it happen. And you can be part of that too,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you mentioned 50 years. So what are you looking forward to?
we have a lot of really exciting things going on in 2024. I don't want to give
You
away
you can share,
too
you
much,
share
but-
whatever
Fundraising
you
initiatives.
feel like. I mean, it is still your show. I mean,
Yeah.
So you go ahead and share whatever you're looking forward to. It may
There will be
be
some
small.
fundraising initiatives that will be playing on 50s, okay?
Yep.
50 years,
Oh,
50
fun,
something,
fun.
something, something.
Yep.
I have my own little plans, my dark
Of course, yeah. Your
Dark
dark
arts plans.
Yep,
My dark arts
absolutely.
hasn't shared with me yet.
Yeah, a little bit. I was inspired by your whiteboard.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, so yeah, I played
Some
off
good
that. There's
inspiration.
one that there was something that she put on the whiteboard that I went, oh, but we can put a few more zeros behind that. Yeah, so there's some interesting things that I think once we know we're going to have more of the stories, we don't want to tokenize any of our clients, but what we want to do is share the impact on the community. So something just like you said, it's like with X amount of dollars, you could say, or with the input of this other organization, here's the work we did.
Right.
And this is how it profoundly changed the trajectory, not only of this family's life, but the neighborhood and beyond. So that's where we got to start. We got to
Yeah.
start with tooting our own horn, saying, look what we've done for the past 50 years.
Right.
Exactly.
And guess what? Look where we could go
Right.
in the next 50 years
Yeah.
with your input.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we're definitely going to have a big O celebration of some kind.
yeah.
We're not sure what it's going to look like yet, but I'm really excited to start putting that together. And I'm hoping that can work with Melissa on getting some kind of fundraiser event for that. And, we don't do a ton of
Yeah,
events,
we have
but
to.
we have a few that we do. She mentioned Comedy for Community.
Mhm.
That's for our homeless prevention department. Upcoming in March, we will do
Moomers.
Moomers for meals,
Meals.
which is March
Mhm.
March for Meals.
Wow.
And so that will be fun. I'm sure we'll have Lisa or somebody on for
sure.
Extraordinary.
that.
Share Love's still going on through the end of the year. And all.
Yeah, for Meals on
which
Wheels
is
as well.
yeah.
And so,
Subaru.
we've got a couple of things. And of course, we always have things going on with our different events for financial management services.
Oh yeah, all the time.
So, we're going to have some stuff coming up and
Always.
it's going to be good stuff.
And, there is a constant presence in the community of individuals and families that you've served. I think the more individuals find out, 50 years, there's going to be a lot of voices that raise up and want to be a part of that. So that's extraordinary. And 50 years is something to be said in, a time where it's really easy for things, especially in this arena, to not be sustainable and not succeed. Well, we typically have some special questions at the end-ish. I'm bifurcating those a little bit. So, Melissa, do you have a favorite acronym? At NMCAA, do you have a favorite? This may be a
Favorite-
fire one. What's your favorite acronym at NMCAA?
Oh boy. Did you do the acronym of the week?
You don't have a
okay,
favorite
you know what
one yet?
favorite is? NMCAA, Northwest Michigan Community Actions Agency. You are the action.
That's
I'm
fantastic.
playing with that one. I mean, there's
The best one.
TFAP, there's
Yeah.
MOW, FMS.
Right.
I mean, but
Yeah.
HP. It's not Hewlett Packard. It's homeless prevention.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's right now. It's NMCAA
Okay.
because I'm focusing on that big umbrella
Wonderful.
and bringing everybody underneath it.
And again, it's only 6 weeks, but I'm really fascinated by your answer to this traditional question. If you could have one wish to fulfill at NMCAA for real or imagined, what would it be?
Recurring gifts. I want more sustainable funding. I want
Okay.
people to give on a monthly
Practical.
basis. Go big or go home. Be
Right.
bold. You got to be bold.
Right.
And you know what? I'm a sustaining donor to WCME Public Radio and always have been. And that's because I'm a NPR, PBS mind in this world. And I love supporting the community, information through that system.
So a practical wish.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start keeping track. And Erica,
Yes.
I have been dying to ask you, and we've asked this question a couple of times.
Oh boy, I know what it is.
And as the marketing
what it
person,
is.
I can't wait to hear what you're going to say to this. If you could have any spokesperson, it doesn't have to be a celebrity of note, who would it be?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this, Ryan, and I should have come up with something.
It doesn't have to be a witty answer. It just has to be your answer. So if you could have any positive spokesperson for NMCAA advocating on your behalf to get those recurring gifts, to get all that stuff going, and you could say the same person who's already been said 8 times.
You know what?
I don't
That's
know who
the
the
only
person
person
is.
that.
Yeah.
That's the only person that keeps coming to mind, and you know what?
Maybe there's something subliminal, but you could say it, and it's still fine. The listeners will be happy.
The listeners will know, and she's all over right now.
So maybe that's overplayed.
So maybe it's overplayed. Melissa's going like, who is it? Taylor Swift?
Oh, Swiftie!
That question has come up on the podcast a few times, and the answer, I think, consistently so far,
A lot have been.
unbeknownst to the other person, has been Taylor Swift.
And, she's so huge right now. She does have a positive voice.
This is going to help the ratings of this and the searchability of the show go
Taylor
up.
Swift, if you are listening, NMCAA could really
Travis Kelce, if you're listening.
Again.
Hey, Travis, I would love to be a guest on your podcast.
Oh, yeah. See, that could be a crossover.
There's the children's choir, like the song. All
But
that.
is there
We're bringing
like
borrowing
another,
heavily.
like a deep pull, a deep Erica pull? Somebody maybe even that was in their prime, maybe doesn't even have to be living anymore to have some fun.
Dolly Parton.
Oh,
Dolly
interesting.
Parton would be a great one.
I mean, she's done so
She's got
much.
the.
She's a national treasure.
And she's got the, Imagination Library.
I know.
And my kids all have subscribed to that, which is, an amazing program. They get a book every single month. It's awesome. I mean, kids are so excited when they get their book in the mail. They're like, oh,
Her new album is a banger. It's
Oh,
called
yeah,
Rockstar.
it's rock and roll rockstar. And
I
I've
have
seen
not.
her. I saw her perform at Michigan State University once, and the stories she tells about who she is, how she became who she is, which is, oh my God, she's just a national treasure.
You're not committed to this. This is just for fun. But I like that one.
Yeah,
So,
no,
okay.
Dolly's a great
You
answer.
wouldn't say no to a meeting with Dolly.
No.
Okay.
I mean, who would?
Or Taylor Swift. Okay.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I think she's the up and coming. So there's something about Taylor that strikes me as someone that could become that way, that positive.
Perhaps she's the Dolly Parton of the future.
Yeah. Well, of high influence, and this is, not an advertisement for either of these artists, but we'd like for them to reach out if they would like to. Erica and Melissa, thank you both so much for being with us today and for all of you do for NMCAA, the teams, and our community.
Thanks for having us, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
It is my pleasure and our pleasure. Don't forget, we'd like to share your community stories regarding NMCAA. If you have a story you'd like to share about how NMCAA has impacted your life, send us an email at collectiveuspodcast@nmcaa.net. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please hit like, follow, or share button. It truly helps us continue to get the word out on all the good NMCAA does in the community. If you would like to learn more about Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency or the programs we offer, or would like to make a donation, we encourage you to reach out at 231-947-3780 or visit our website at nmcaa.net. And to our listeners today, we encourage you to continue to strive each day to do something to help yourself or your neighbor.